My God.
It's another sad day in
America.
Painful to be introduced to George Floyd during his last breath.
With the cop's knee on his neck. He deserves so much more.
How many black lives have to be taken before something is done?
We are not a threat.
I am shaking as I type.
This has got to stop.
We are sick of it.
We need conviction.
I just want us all to live.
Death will not stop until the powers that be are finally held accountable.
Don't look away from the truth until every one of us are free from white supremacy.
The world stands with
Criminalizing and killing of black and brown bodies is not new. It's as old as America. It's just getting filmed more.
Do you know what it feels like to be hunted? To have a new hashtag for a dead black person every single day? How does one plan a life if they aren't sure they will have a life to plan?
Trayvon,
Teresa Armstrong, Deborah Dance,
Megan
Michelle Lee
George Floyd. His name was George Floyd. Say his name. Say his name.
George Floyd. Say his name.
Say their names.
Once again, and always, we fight for justice.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Rest in power, beautiful. You didn't deserve this.
My grandfather was a case in that study. He worked as a firefighter where the Tuskegee Airmen trained. He and I were phenomenally close. The syphilis study happened for 40 years. Penicillin was found to be the most effective treatment, but the men were denied the treatment. Interestingly enough, I've had someone tell me that they were concerned about getting the vaccine because of the syphilis study. And I always, try to educate or provide some information about what happened. But then I said, you're talking about something that happened to my family. And I've taken both of my vaccines. I'm doing this for them. Health is greater than wealth, and it's really up to us to take ownership of our health and this story.
Alabama State to face Howard. It'll be interesting to see how the fan mix works. How Howard's fan base responds, because has Howard been in a SWAC MEAC challenge? So I thought it was initially kind of good to introduce the Northeast part of the MEAC to the SWAC. Yeah, Howard claims to have a homecoming. They claim to have kind of a tailgate. I want to see what that looks like. Can they travel to Atlanta? I just want to say, I haven't seen much of a Howard. I've been to a Howard homecoming. I've been to Howard tailgate. I'm sorry, Howard fans. Let me repeat. It's nothing to brag on. All right. It is a one-day Aspire or BET video. That is it. So good. But good for you. But I think that event, you need to bring a little bit more to the fire. So,
man, all them Howard fans out there, they got beat up when they dealing with the HU. Mike was like, not so fast with the homecoming.
Hey, all that SWAC arrogance just came out in that one statement.
Tune in every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern for Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Course, lecture, dismissed.
My God.
It's another sad day in
America.
Painful to be introduced.
Welcome to Knights of the Round Table, HBCU Pro Sports Media Association, presented to you by the Black College Sports Network. Got the heavy hitters in here with me today. Mr. The I Love himself, the pride of Jackson, Mississippi, Mr. Charles Bishop. Charles, how you doing today, my brother?
Doing well, AD. Got a little inclement weather headed this way towards Houston, but we're gonna make it through it like we always do.
Well, you know, just like a couple of weeks ago when we were praying for Carlos, we're gonna send a word up for you, Dr. Cavill, Michael, who are members of the team in that area that you are in, and anybody else who may be affected by that storm. You know, Charles, I lost track. What's the name of this storm? You know, they keep. Every time I look up, is this storm, but you got to watch out for this storm. I done lost track, my brother.
That's a great question. I think I've lost track too. I don't know. They just said storm coming, so tropical storm something. So it's always around this time of year, you know, when you get late August, pretty much going all the way into mid-October. You know, something's brewing in the Gulf, so nobody can convince me climate change isn't real. That's for sure.
I got you. Well, good thing it's on a Monday, so hopefully no games will get affected by that this upcoming weekend in the Houston area. President of the HBCU Pro Sports Media Association, Mr. Trevin A. Jones, up there in Pittsburgh, the pride of those Norfolk State Spartans. Any weather coming your way, Mr. Jones?
No, family, and I'm glad that it's not, but you know, definitely my prayers are with everyone down south. Because I mean, you all are getting. Every time I look at the news, something's coming across the Gulf of Mexico or something, and it's like, come on, man, give them a break. They deserve a break. But not to make light of it, I am praying for all of you. Hope everybody's safe. And unlike AD, I'm not worried about any games being affected. I'm worried about you all being safe. So it's all good. And did I hear you say love? When you were talking about Charles Bishop, and so that everybody knows, that's my frat brother, A506 up in the house. But did you just talk about love? Is it Bishop Love? Did I hear that correctly, or did I hear that just totally wrong?
The I Love, baby.
I love it, man. I love it. All right, I'm gonna give it back to AD. You know how I do. I kind of take over a little bit.
Hey, that's all right. It's our show. I'm just driving right now, but sooner or later I'm gonna pull over and let somebody else drive. You know, my name is AD Drew, Black College Sports Network, and the host of this here show. Quickly, Charles, give us your quick plugs.
Oh, yes, definitely. You can watch us weekly, the pregame show, which is a pregame show prior to Jackson State kicking off with myself and Neely. Follow us definitely on at the pregame show, Instagram, Facebook. You can also catch like, share, subscribe on YouTube. And you can also see me on Dr. Cavill's Inside HBCU Sports Lab every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. With the professor himself, Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, the brightest mind in HBCU sports.
All right, Trevin.
I don't even know if I can follow that up, Frat. That was a good one. All right, Urban Media Today. Go to urbanmediatoday.com. Urban Media Today talks sports every Saturday morning on Urban Media Today Radio. Go to urbanmediatoday.com. You can access that. Ice Code Alpha on Twitter. Catch up with me there. Any questions, comments, you know, anything like, yo, what you doing, Trev? Anything like that. Howard University, WHBC 96.3 HD3. They do the live streams of the football game. So every football game, I am actually doing the play-by-play. I am the voice of the Bison, which I greatly appreciate. I am a Spartan, but I always tell people I bleed green and gold, but if you see a Spartan riding on the back of a bison to the promised land, that's yours truly. That's me. And then the HBCU Pro Sports Media Association with the Knights of the Round Table. Whenever AD lets me on, you see I talk so much, so you might not let me on that much. But whenever AD lets me on, I'm here as well.
I'm not going to let the president on. AD Drew, Black College Sports Network. My podcast is BCSN Sports Rap. You can catch me and Brian each Sunday evening from 6 to 8 right here on the Black College Sports Network. All right, fellas, let's get into our first topic of the day. Something that's been on my mind, and this is one of those things that we talk about behind closed doors in our meetings. Let's let everybody else hear about this subject. Check games. We play them. Why do we play them? Is there an alternative to playing them? Because we saw what happened this weekend. This was get paid time this past weekend. But I kind of looked at these check games like, yeah, I got a car. I was in an accident. I'm broke up. I'm going to get paid from the accident, but I'm still hurt. And that's what happens to a lot of our teams after these check games. So I'm going to start off with you, Trevin. Give us your take on the fact that so many of our HBCUs have to play these check games, and give me an alternative to these check games.
Well, right now I'm going to say that there is no alternative right now. If people would come out and support the HBCUs to whereas the programs are generating the money that's needed, then you might not have to play these big payday games, as you're calling them, check games. And I get it. A lot of times we do get paid, but we don't want to pay in blood, so to speak. So we get paid, but we don't want to get the money and have the team broke up as you get ready for conference play. So, the first 3 weeks of the season are usually the big pay games. I just watched Howard and the other night, I was able to do the Howard game with the University of Maryland. They didn't get the score, but I'm hoping, and no one was broken up. Like no one got hurt. So we got the payday. I like the games in a sense because it gives you that exposure. As an HBCU, it gets you that exposure. As an HBCU athlete, it actually puts you on the field, because I'm tired of people saying you're playing up or playing down. I know it's true, but at the same time, if I'm an athlete and I'm stepping on that field, I don't care who I'm playing. I just want to play ball. So it gets them the exposure and it gets you the experience of playing, not that HBCU football isn't big time football, but big time football where there's no excuse, where people can't say, well, you didn't play on the big stage. Yes, you did. So the alternative right now, I don't think there is one right now for us, because we need the funds coming in. But eventually I'm hoping that HBCU football, people will recognize it for what it is. And we won't have to play those games because you will be at the games supporting.
Charles.
Double-edged sword. You take a look at it, and like Trevin mentioned, there is the exposure part of playing these FBS opponents, these check games. The exposure component actually was mentioned today on the SWAC Media Conference when Titus Howard had an opportunity to go against Auburn a couple of years ago. The film from that showed that he was actually worthy of not just being a draft pick, but a first-round draft pick. So you have that. Sometimes I think when I talk to former players, they always enjoy the aspect of playing an FBS opponent, because they get to measure where they are as an athlete, and they always look at the offers that they got in their respective high schools. So it becomes a situation of, I probably had the ability or the talent to play on the FBS level. I chose to go where I went to go. But, the double-edged sword part of it is, I think Coach Prime touched on it even in person today. Dr. Bill talks about it all the time. It's the morale of playing in these games and sort of tearing down school pride. You go up against an opponent and you get beat, 60-something to 3 or 60-something to nothing. It does become a negative recruiting tool that these FBS schools exploit. You talk to recruiters, it's like, why would you want to go somewhere where you have been demolished by 50 some odd points? And that is a consistent sticking point. Even when you talk with these guys who transfer from FBS to FCS, that's one of the lasting things that is stuck in their head, that they will tell you that basically, the way I was recruited is why go to a HBCU when they're getting whooped, in the manner that they're getting whooped, So I think it is a double-edged sword. Why play the games? The athletic department needs them. We understand that. But I think, like Trevor mentioned, it takes a concerted effort of that fan base to purchase those season tickets in droves, so that you can, so the athletic director can actually take a look at the numbers and ask the question whether playing in those, money games are even relevant.
I'm going to offer a little bit of a different perspective on what we can do to get us out of these check games, because they're not good for our programs. And we as HBCUs We do the same thing to our Division II and NAIA schools. You know, how many of our HBCUs have Virginia Lynchburg on their homecoming schedule this year? That's a check game for Virginia Lynchburg. And we always see the Division II schools play our FCS schools in whatever classic you want to call it. Now, some of those go back to rivalries. I'm good with those. Your Tuskegee, Alabama States, and your Winston-Salems and Centrals and things like that. Those were traditional rivalries. I'm good with those. But when you get Fort Valley and FAM are not rivals. That was a check game for Fort Valley. Mm-hmm. You know, we're going down to Central Florida next week. Excuse me, South Florida next week. FAMU is check game. But sometimes we got to think beyond attendance. Yeah, we want people in the stands, but let's be real. The money is in television. The money is on the internet. If we come up with a creative way to get people watching the games, supporting those advertisers to get those ad dollars in, I'd much rather have those ad dollars for a like-minded game, FCS versus FCS, Division II versus Division II. Because I don't care where you are, except for Memorial Stadium in Jackson, you're not going to get more than 30,000 in one of our stadiums. Jackson State is the exception. The exception.
Well,
not the rule.
I disagree with you there, because if you start to get the attendance on the rise, you'll move the venue. I mean, because don't sleep, brother.
But back in the 70s, move the venue, but you have to rent that venue. Somebody has to.
But if you're selling it out, if you're selling it out, it won't matter. You understand what I'm saying? Because don't sleep back. Like I said, back in the 70s, we do that in the 80s, early 80s. Go ahead.
Look, ESPN, we already saw what the Jackson State FAMU game did on ESPN, the kind of numbers it pulled in. We know we still haven't seen the numbers from the Jackson State, Tennessee State game, but I'm pretty sure that pulled in decent numbers too, especially when you consider you have Coach Prime and Coach George going against each other, two former NFL stars. So create more games that we can market to TV, cable, streaming services, where we can get those ad dollars in. Maybe we don't have to go out and get broke up like that.
Well, here's a $1 million question, AD, is how does your fan base begin to understand the importance of streaming and television? You know, we have been conditioned to believe that butts in the seats are the key to marketing program or getting the fan base involved. But the $1 million question that I normally ask is, as a fan base, how do you help the fan base understand how important television is or how important live streaming is?
I mean, we've got to make a paradigm shift. I'm going to ask you this. You got a Netflix account?
Sure do.
Everybody got a Netflix account. 5 years ago, you didn't have a Netflix account. It's going to take a slow paradigm shift but there has to be quality products on these streaming services. And yes, fans, you can't watch everything on YouTube for free. Every now and then, you're going to have to contribute $1 or $2 to help keep these things going for our HBCUs. Now, I don't like what one company does, and everybody, y'all know what company I'm talking about. I'm not going to call them out by name on this show, Flow Sports. But, I don't like the way that they stream, but there is some type of happy medium between free and the Flow Sports model where you pay it for everything. And we need to have a paradigm shift and some serious conversations about this so that we can create this additional revenue so that we don't have to get broke up. And if you are going to go on campus, buy some merchandise from the bookstore on campus, not Joe in the grocery store parking lot who got the fish stand on one corner of the parking lot and the bootleg T-shirts on the other end of the parking lot. You were going to say something, Trevin?
Yeah, brother, I understand what you're saying, but you're missing a huge point. Black College Sports Network, HBCU Game Day, I'm going to give you all credit because you cover the sports and you cover them to the to the point whereas the coverage is excellent and it can even rival the major networks. But what you're missing is, and what people don't understand as well, is the conferences make these deals with the major networks, whereas Black College Sports Network gets faded out. HBCU Game Day gets faded out. What do you mean by faded out, Trevin? Well, when the conferences make these deals with the larger networks, that means that the larger networks get priority, and they also get towards it's just like it's just them. No one else can film, or no one else can shoot the footage, or no one else can stream the footage, and then that blocks out the coverage that's being given. Now, when you guys mentioned the game earlier, that's Tennessee State, Jackson State. No disrespect to Tennessee State or Jackson State, but you all know what was promoted for that game. It was Deion Sanders and Eddie George. That was the promotion for the game. We as Black College medium who understand the history of HBCU, the H, like Steve said last week, Steve Gaither said last week, the H stands for a reason. There's history there. It's historical. So, and I'm not going to step on my soapbox with this, but let it be known that, and Charles, as you mentioned earlier, how do we educate our fans? Our fans already know. You know, they're already there. They just have to understand you have to support. If you sell out the stadiums, if there's a team or a school or institution that can sell out their stadium every football game, you will see a team whose football program is getting the dollars needed first and foremost to survive, and then secondly to flourish, where they may not have to play the payday games.
Charles, you got anything?
I think Trevin hits on a very important point there. It is fan support that is going to carry the day with regards to, the need to even have these money games. So, I understand both of you guys' points, and it is a conundrum. It is actually a conundrum that I'm attempting to look at in a dissertation. So it is a bunch of different avenues to kind of go behind in terms of looking at fan behavior and fan support of our various HBCU schools, because I think there is a sweet spot in there somewhere, but it is trying to figure out cultural differences and cultural norms is a sticky wicket.
Yeah. Well, chime in on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Let us know what you think. We're going to put a pin in that, fellas, because obviously we are not at the pay grade, but we can solve that problem today. Coming back after the break, fellas, we got a bunch of 2-0 teams out here. We got a bunch of 0-2 teams out here. Who you buying? Who you selling? And who we need to hold on to just for a little bit of further evaluation. Knights of the Round Table, presented by HBCU Pro Sports Media Association. Trevin Jones, Charles Bishop. We'll be right back.
Let's get back to strolling instead of scrolling. Before we can safely come together, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your fam.
It's the show where we take you inside the game before the game begins. It's the pregame. With your host, Charles Bishop and Neely. So get ready, because we pregame harder than the other show's party. It's the pregame.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
Welcome back to Knights of the Round Table. Trevin Jones, Charles Bishop, AD Drew here with you. Fellas, let's have a class on stocks. Jackson State, let's start off with them. They're the only FCS team that is 2-0 right now that's an HBCU. So I already know what Charles is going to say, so I'm going to come to him last. So I'm going to start with you once again, Trevin. You buying Jackson State? You selling Jackson State? Or is it a stock we need to hold on to for right now for further evaluation?
Oh, I'm buying, most definitely, especially after the last performance. Tennessee State, Shedeur. Is it Shedeur Sanders? Did I say it right? Shedeur. You got father, son, okay, head coach, quarterback. Head coach having a quarterback that's on the field, and that's your son. That connection, that's like having a coach on the field because the coach and the son have that connection. The way Shedeur goes, that's the way Jackson State goes. I like it as long as he can, and he's a heady player. I don't think he's turned the ball. Charles could correct me. I don't think he's turned the ball over, and if he has, he hasn't done it that often. You get a quarterback that's taking his bumps and bruises.
He had a fumble in that FAMU game. Correct me if I'm wrong, Charles.
Yeah, he had a couple of fumbles in the FAMU game, but he hasn't turned the ball over via the interception.
Yes, he has not thrown a pick yet.
Mm-hmm.
Which means he's looking through his progressions and processions. He's picking his receivers. He's keeping the offense moving. So I'm buying. I mean, the defense, we already know. We've seen what the defense can do, and I'm liking the Jackson State defense. So, yeah, I'm buying.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of between buy and hold on Jackson State. Like Trevor said, defensively, what they've done to the quarterbacks that they've played, the 4 or 5 quarterbacks that they've played thus far, FAMU's 2 quarterbacks, and Tennessee State. Did Tennessee State play 3 quarterbacks? I can't remember.
They played 2.
They only played 2.
Jeremy Higbottom and Davian Bryant.
But I've never seen quarterbacks look so confused in my life. And if it wasn't for the blown coverage at the end of the Jackson State game, that defense really looks good when they gave up the late touchdown on the blown coverage right there. But offensively, the only question that I have, and Charles and I was talking about this off camera, Shedeur, FAMU game, looked like a 3-star. Shedeur, Tennessee State, looks like about a 6-star. He really played that good. Obviously, we want to see the consistency. Where is he going to fall at in between those two? He's going to fall somewhere in between those two. Hopefully, he falls at that 4-star that he was recruited at. That's number one. The only concern I have is, as a true freshman, I'm waiting on that freshman mistake. Now, you all have said he has a maturity beyond his years, and maybe he does. So, if he has that maturity beyond his years, he'll definitely get me to buy. He definitely will get me to buy. And also, he's played from the lead in both of these games, played from ahead. I still want to see what he does when he has to will Jackson State to victory. So because of that, I'm going to hold for at least one more week on Jackson State. Come on, Charles, tell me why I'm wrong.
Get him, Frank. Get him, Frank.
Well, obviously, I'm going to buy on Jackson State, but Shedeur Sanders does have a maturity beyond his years. Obviously, he's not going to go the season without some sort of freshman mistake. If we're waiting on that, yeah, that's obviously going to happen at some point. But what he has done tremendously is not put Jackson State in harm's way. Throwing the ball, he takes what's given to him, and that's a maturity beyond his years in terms of a freshman quarterback. Trevin, I think Trevin mentioned Jackson State goes as Shedeur goes. To some extent, I like that take. I will say this. Jackson State's defense is looking like the Jackson State defenses of the 80s and 90s. When you take a look at Florida A&M first game, 234 total yards. I think this past game with Tennessee State, 238 total yards, but 40 of that came in, garbage time of that game. They get after the quarterback. James Houston, 4.5 sacks this past weekend against Tennessee State. Their front four, their front seven is as active as anything I've seen since probably North Carolina A&T's Celebration Bowl defenses. And definitely what came to mind this past weekend was a Gramblin's run to the Celebration Bowl back in, I believe, 2016, where they had a front four that just put pressure on you nonstop. But so far, so good with regards to Jackson State. I think when you get another good data point, they play up or they play an FBS team this weekend in UL Monroe. But I think the talent is comparable. When you take a look at Jackson State, UL Monroe, depth, I think, of course, is going to play a little bit of a factor, but Jackson State has quality depth that I don't think we've really seen just yet. Some people would say one of their best pass rushers. You haven't even seen him really take significant snaps on the field. So I think that's something that, you have to take a look at this weekend in regards to this Jackson State defense. But they're playing lights out football right now.
And AD, you got to keep in mind, Shador, when he goes home, who does he have to talk to? Coach Prime. Like, he got to go home to family. So this brother, you are asking for the freshman mistake, which you're waiting to see. Yeah, he might get some bumps and bruises and some missteps as a freshman, but you're not going to see a major freshman mistake from him. He's coming up in a football family. And that's the reason he has the maturity beyond his years as a true freshman. That young man, he's going to be something else. And I think, like, with that defense and, man, his test, I believe, and forgive me if I'm wrong, might come up against, somebody that we don't expect him to really be a challenge, like someone like Southern. That might be a test for him. But go ahead, Charles.
Hold up, Charles, before you answer that, because I want you to throw this into your answer also. Willie Alex Hines asked, will Jackson State defense be the one that slows down Alabama A&M? So put that into your answer also, that you get ready to rebut Trevin with.
Well, the answer there is Aquill Glass. I'm sorry, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Aquill Glass is definitely one of the better quarterbacks, not just in HBCU ball, but in FCS football. That will be a true data point in terms of can Jackson State's pass rush get to Aquill Glass. I think the bigger question, Willie Alex Hines, is can Alabama A&M slow down Jackson State from an offensive standpoint? That's the question I think everybody wants to ask with regards to Alabama A&M. Are they going to win all games by shootouts? Defensively, I think there are some things that SWAC offenses can exploit. But that is a great question. Can Jackson State slow down Aquill Glass? I think everybody wants to ask that question. I think we get a very good data point this Thursday with Bethune-Cookman and Alabama A&M. I think that's going to be a great game. Bethune-Cookman traditionally has pretty decent defense. They can get after quarterback. So we'll see what Alabama A&M first does with Bethune-Cookman before we look, towards what Jackson State can do against Alabama A&M.
All right. We spent enough time on Jackson State. No disrespect to Jackson State, but we got a couple other teams that we need to talk about too. Just as Jackson State is the only 2-0 team, we've got 8 0-2 teams. Howard, Morgan State, Norfolk State, North Carolina A&T, South Carolina State, Southern, Tennessee State, Texas Southern. All right, quickly, fellas, who should we hold out of that group? Who should you still hold on to and hope that they're going to turn their season around? And who do you go ahead and just get rid of out of that group of 8?
Well, Southern's 1-1. Southern won this past weekend. They beat Miles.
You're correct. Let me take Southern off the list. That leaves 7 of us.
Okay, give me the 7 again.
Howard, Morgan, Norfolk, A&T, South Carolina State, Tennessee State, Texas Southern.
Definitely for me, South Carolina State. When you talk about Corey Fields and Shaq Davis, I think they can offensively, they can get things done over there on the MEAC side of the ball. They were projected to finish first. I think 0-2 is just a bump in the road for that South Carolina State team. I even think when you take a look at Norfolk State with Dawson Odoms, I think they'll turn the steering wheel slowly but surely, but they'll get things up and rolling. I'm looking for a very competitive MEAC. When you take a look at the 6 teams battling it out over there, it should be some fun football.
Trevin.
I'm not getting rid of anybody, to be honest with you. But I'm going to say 2 different schools. And number one, because they've both looked out for me at this point. Howard University.
he calls for.
Yeah, Howard University with Quentin Williams, Jared Hunter. Jared Hunter is a running back that's you're going to see some big things from. Number 22. You have Aaron Motley on the defensive side of the ball, 92, and Jevin Jackson, big number 97. Two defensive ends and defensive tackles that were all over the place in the Maryland game. So I got to say Howard is definitely going to turn their team around. Coach Larry Scott, love him to death. I love what he's doing with the program. That 0-2, don't sleep. Quentin Williams threw his first interception in his last game against Maryland. Keep in mind, they played Richmond and they played Maryland back-to-back. So I think you're going to see some prizes from Howard University. The Bison football team has something coming. That Buffalo Soldier defense is tough as well. Then I had to go to Coach Dawson Odoms in Norfolk State. Behold the green and gold. Don't sleep on Jawan Carter. You know, in 2019, Jawan Carter had a phenomenal season for the Spartans. And again, I know I'm leaning on quarterbacks, but as Jawan Carter goes, that's how the Norfolk State Spartans go. And don't sleep on the 0-2 start for either one of those schools.
Quickly, let's go down to the smaller schools. Albany State, Benedict, Langston, all come in at 2-0. Buy, sell, hold. Trevin, coming back to you.
Benedict, buy-in. I'm liking Eric Phoenix. Like his 292 yards passing, I think. And then I'm liking the fact that their defense looked pretty good in the game that we saw last week. And also Langston. Don't sleep on Coach Quincy Morgan. Langston is 2-0. They're in the Sooner Athletic Conference. Coach Morgan, I think their first year in the conference, they were either champions or co-champions.
They were undefeated.
They were undefeated, if I'm not mistaken. Then they made it to the playoffs. People are sleeping on a small school like Langston. They're only HBCU in Oklahoma, by the way. So don't sleep on Benedict or Langston. No disrespect to any other schools, but I'm definitely buying on those two.
Charles.
Quentin Morgan and Langston, he's on that short list for those coaches who's next up, you know, in terms of SWAC teams. You know, his name is always one of those hot names that is floating around, you know, looking at potentially leaving or going somewhere else from Langston. Reggie Ruffin is another name that's sitting out there that's always a hot name. So those are two names that you always keep an eye on their football teams because they play you so physical and they play you so hard.
Albany State, big test this week against Valdosta. Valdosta ranked number 3. Albany State comes in about, I believe, like 24 right now or so. So definitely holding on Albany State. I'm selling Benedict. They beat Allen. They beat Edward Waters. That's a cheap 2-0. No disrespect to those teams, but that's a cheap 2-0. Langston, definitely buying Langston. Quickly, the 0-2 teams: Elizabeth City, Florida Memorial, Lincoln, PA, Livingston, Miles, Morehouse, Shaw, Texas College, Tuskegee, Virginia State, Virginia Union, West Virginia State. Charles, quickly, any one of those we need to keep?
Oh, we need to keep Miles. Miles had took on 2 SWAC teams in Alabama State and Southern, gave Alabama State everything they could handle, and fought Southern tooth and nail there in the first half. Had some miscues there in the second half, and Southern was able to, you know, go up on them. But definitely, any Reggie Ruffin team, hey, they got my support.
Trevin, quickly, any of those we need to keep?
Yeah, I'm gonna be a homer for you on this one. We keep it Skegee. We keep him in Tuskegee because of the 2 quarterbacks. I know they looked rough in the first game. Last game they didn't look too much better, but at the same time, when you're looking at Lewis Williams, Bryson Williams, the 2 quarterbacks that Coach Streeter is working with, I think once they get it together, you'll see a different type of Golden Tiger team as the season goes on.
Yeah, I'm also keeping Miles, but got to keep Virginia State. Coach Reggie Barlow always with the competitive team. He's always going to be good. Just lost, what was it, 10-7 this past weekend. Yeah, they took an L their first week. So I'm going to hold on to Virginia State also. Want to throw them into the mix. Fellas, we're going to take a break. It's time to come. When we come back, we're going to get into the polls. You're watching Knights of the Round Table, HBCU Pro Sports Media Association presentation.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Here at Tuskegee University, some of our historical figures like Booker T. Washington, George Washington Carver, those are some of the people that created or started that Tuskegee experience.
This place is so different. You have a support system, a real support system. We may ball and parlay, but the most important thing we do is graduate. And after we graduate, we accelerate in everything we do.
Let's get back to strolling instead of scrolling. Before we can safely come together, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your family.
All right, fellas, it's time for the polls. It's time for the top 10. We're going to start off with the mid-majors this week. Coming in at number 10, 16 points, the Lane Dragons coming in at 9. Miles, Golden Bears coming in at number 8. Thoroughbreds of Kentucky State with 41 points. Also with 41 points, but getting the tiebreaker at number 7 is Savannah State. And coming in at number 6 is Fayetteville State University. Fellas, anything?
Let's get back to...
Excuse me, anything on those bottom 5 right there?
Yeah, looking for Miles to make that slow creep on up the polls because they are a solid team. And then when you take a look at a team like Lane, I think they have something special there. Nice quarterback and receiver duo McKenzie there. I like what they, had played UAPB really tough first game of the season. But you take a look, they're very efficient with what they try to do on the offensive side of the ball. So looking for both of those teams to make a slow creep up that pole there, AD.
Trevin.
Fayetteville State, they never get the respect that they need, that they're due. So I'm looking for the Broncos to get mad. They had a great first game. I know they lost to Wingate, but I'm thinking, Fayetteville State, keep your eye on them.
Yeah. My thing is Kentucky State will beat Tennessee State this weekend.
Whoa.
Yes, I'm saying it. I'm calling it early. We know what they did to y'all a couple of years ago, Charles. So I think they can do Tennessee State the same way. Mm-hmm. Which would possibly vault them into the top 5. Also, I expect Miles to be back in the top 5 by the end of the month. All right, moving on to the top 5. Fort Valley State comes in at number 5. Langston comes in at number 4, receiving 67 points and a first place vote. Number 3 is Bowie State, 74 points. Number 2, the Benedict Tigers come in with 82 points. And at number 1, Albany State, 99 points, 9 first place votes. Yes, we have a Russian judge amongst us. They only one vote from being unanimous. Langston got that other vote, fellas. Here it is. I'll start off with this. Albany State seriously could take that loss this week to Valdosta State. It's going to depend on how competitive they are in that game. If they're as competitive as the other 2 HBCUs Valdosta State has played, Albany State will fall out of the top 5 because they've won by an average of 50 points in a couple of games they've played against HBCUs, which will open up the door for a Kentucky State or a Miles to creep back into the top 5. Benedict takes on Savannah this week. Also, a statement game. Savannah could wind up moving into the top 5, replacing Benedict. So that's my take on it. Charles, I'm going to come back to you.
Huge game, Benedict and Savannah. That's what Dr. Bill calls one of those data points in terms of what you really got with Savannah State and what do you have with Benedict. So that'll be a really interesting matchup to see who comes out ahead on that. It looks like Jerome Johnson for Bowie State is starting to hit his stride. 409 yards this past weekend. He's thrown for 600 yards and over 600 yards and 6 touchdowns over the past couple of weeks. So I look for Bowie State to eventually work their way up to the top of that poll.
Trevin.
Ditto. I'm looking at Bowie State. I mean, the test, as Charles was mentioning with Savannah State, that's going to be a big test. But I mean, getting back to Bowie State, I mean, Coach Wilson, you can't sleep on him. I mean, he's had 2 great quarterbacks that I remember, and I mean, he always has the Bulldog defense, tightening up. They always seem to actually perform a peak at the right time during their season. So I'm gonna go with Bowie State as well.
One of the top 10 matchup that we have according to our poll, number 10 Lane will travel to number 5 Fort Valley State. So we're definitely going to see some movement in next week polls just based on some of the head-to-head matchups that we have on our poll. Fellas, let's move over to the large schools. Moving over to the large schools. Receiving votes this week: Southern, Hampton, Delaware State. Coming in at number 10, the Aggies of North Carolina A&T with 24 points. Coming in at number 9, also with 24 points, but receiving a tiebreaker is South Carolina State. Coming in at number 8 from down in Texas, Prairie View, A&M, 31 points. Coming in at number 7, Grambling State, 57 points. And coming in at number 6, North Carolina Central. Fellas, quickly, anything on the bottom 5?
Did I hear Grambling? I see Grambling number 7.
Grambling is number 7.
Okay. Interesting.
I think that's about right for Grambling, in my opinion. Also, I'm not mad at that with Grambling being at number 7. A&T dropping down to 10. Don't sleep, man. I mean, they played up, so to speak. So, they were a national champion, 2 years ago, if that. So, I mean, I'm just saying them down at number 10 right now, I'm okay with, but don't sleep. Because as they get into conference play and the season goes on for the Aggies, I think they're going to move up to back up the poll.
If they were in the MEAC, I definitely would say that.
Oh yeah, without question. I mean, I got you there.
I definitely agree. Mm-hmm. And the team you don't need to sleep on is South Carolina State. Tough loss to Alabama A&M, very winnable game against Alabama A&M. Then they had to go out and get their check last week against Clemson. So South Carolina State will move back up the rankings. It's just going to be a matter of when and how soon, and who in the MEAC can challenge them. Will it be Delaware State who's receiving votes? Will it be Norfolk? Will it be Central who is ahead of them? But I do expect South Carolina State to move back up. The question is, how far up will they move?
Delaware State is really...
No, go ahead. As much as I love Coach Buddy Pugh, man, I don't know. You're playing New Mexico State this weekend, so that's 3 games in a row. You could start your season 0-3. I'm not doubting the talent, but I'm worried about the psyche after playing such tough 3 games. If they win the game though against New Mexico State, it's all over for the MEAC, because I think they'll be on a high coming through. But that's just
quickly.
No, I was going to say Delaware State is an intriguing team receiving votes. They had that game against Georgetown and let it slip away from them there in the fourth quarter. But you've seen a definite improvement with this Delaware State team from the spring through now. So that's why I think the MEAC is going to be super competitive when you take a look at when they get into conference play.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on to the top 5. Coming in at number 5 are the Braves of Alcorn State. Coming in at number 4, Florida A&M University, 76 points. Coming in at number 3, Arkansas Pine Bluff, 83 points. Coming in at number 2, I Love Jackson State Tigers, 4 first-place votes, total 120 points. And remaining at number 1, despite the bye week, Alabama A&M, 126 points, 9 first-place votes. Trevin, start off with you.
No disrespect to the Golden Lions, but Arkansas Pine Bluff, I'm not feeling that one. And the only reason being is because, I mean, if I look at the top five, I'm probably looking at Alabama A&M, Jackson State, Florida A&M, North Carolina Central, and Alcorn State. So again, no disrespect to the Golden Lions, but at number 5 right now, okay.
So Trevin says take UAPB out, put Central in the top 5. What say you, Charles?
Florida A&M is the outlier for me. I think they're skating along there on reputation. They fought it out with Fort Valley there in the first half, and you don't know what you're going to get from the quarterback position. Rashad McKay came back in this past week against Fort Valley State, and they just didn't have a very good offensive performance against Jackson State. But that would be the one that kind of concerns me, taking a look at Florida A&M up there.
So you take FAMU out, who you replace them with?
I need to see who the 6.
Central 6, Grambling 7, Prairie View 8, South Carolina State 9, A&T 10.
Central, based on that week 0 performance against Alcorn, I would have them right there near Alcorn somewhere. Very impressive win, in fact, this weekend by Alcorn. Anytime you get those SWAC over Southland Conference victories, I'll take those all day.
Yeah. Now I will give you that, and I'm torn with this. I really want to agree with you, Charles. I don't think FAMU is a top 5 team right now without us having a quarterback. But I also know the egg that Alcorn laid in the BX SWAC challenge. I move Central up. I cannot have Alcorn ahead of Central, considering Central beat them head to head. So I move Central to 4, drop FAMU to 5, and then move Alcorn down to 6. That's how I would have done it.
If FAMU performs well against South Florida this weekend, would that convince you all that they are a top 5 team, or still no?
Yes, it would. All I need to see for FAMU is some consistent quarterback play. They're a top 5 team. They're a title contender. Without consistent quarterback play, and we don't need another Ryan Stanley. We just need a good game manager.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. Fellas.
Defensively, yes, they are tough.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Go ahead.
Fellas, we're gonna take a break. We're gonna come back with our last segment. Trevin has a little special presentation that he wants to do in this last segment. So just definitely stick around with that and see what he has in store for us. You're watching Knights of the Round Table, special HBCU Pro Sports Media Association presentation. We'll be right back.
Great tease.
Can I get the now bar, please? $1. Have a good one. Got it.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
Let me get a now bar.
Sure. $1.
Appreciate you.
You got it.
Looking to advance your career? The graduate degree programs at Savannah State University can help you stay competitive. Whether it's a springboard to the future or a catalyst for advancement, your future begins at Savannah State University. Apply today.
This is the BCSN Pod Zone, your place for the news, views, and conversations about all things related to HBCU athletics. Here are the BCSN Sports Wrap, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, Knights of the Round Table, The Pregame Show, The Carlos Brown Show, The ONG Strike Zone, and more in one place. We are changing the way you consume HBCU sports, one broadcast at a time.
All right, Charles Bishop, A.D. Drew, Trevin A. Jones here with you, Knights of the Round Table. We're into the final segment of our show, the D Block. And Trevin, you had something that you wanted to premiere today on the show.
Oh, definitely. And we won't premiere it today, but we will introduce it today.
Okay.
What we at HBCU Pro Sports Media Association, along with the Knights of the Round Table, are going to do is going to be a segment entitled Those That Cover the Games. And what we're going to do is actually, with AD's agreement, we're going to bring on the people who cover HBCU sports on the medium, whether it's they do it on Twitter, whether they do it on the website. And we will talk to them so that you get to know the people that are actually covering the HBCU sports platform. And that could go for all sports. It could be lacrosse, it could be football, basketball, just the whole realm of HBCU sports. There are so many people out here that cover the games that you don't even know and that don't get the roses while they're still here, because we've lost some greats. Like Roscoe Nance is one, for example. So we want to make sure that we give those people their just due. And I think it's time. I haven't seen anybody do it. I know there was a story written about Mr. Moore a couple of times. Eric Moore is another person. We're definitely going to feature him on one of our shows, but we're going to do a segment on the Knights of the Round Table moving forward. It will be called Those That Cover the Games, and it will feature the different entities and people who cover HBCU sports as a whole.
Appreciate that. All right, y'all fellas. It's time for parting shots. Closing comments. Start off with Charles Bishop. Give us your parting shot, your closing comments, and then once again, give us your plugs.
Yeah, parting shot. I think Jackson State has the personnel that matches up very well with UL Monroe this weekend. I'm going to say that's going to be an upset. And there are a lot of people around Jackson State's program that don't feel like it would be an upset whatsoever. I think quality depth is always an issue when you start talking about these FCS versus FBS games, but Jackson State actually has quality depth that I think will sustain them. And if they can get there to the fourth quarter, look out. And you'll get your data point, AD, with regards to Shadul.
And your plugs, Charles?
Yes, you can like, share, and subscribe to the pregame show on YouTube. You can also follow us via our Facebook page, our Instagram page, as well as on Twitter. It's at the pregame show. You can also catch me on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sundays when I'm not traveling with Dr. Cavil and Mike Washington. We do cover all things HBCU sports, mid-major and major.
And we appreciate you doing your segment from the airport on yesterday and talk about the door closing on him. The door closing.
Yeah, man.
I think it hit him in the butt after he got done.
Pretty much
inside the HBCU Sports Lab, didn't it, Charles?
Yeah, the flight attendant was looking at me like, "Come on now, we ain't gonna do this." So I was like, "Yes, ma'am. I appreciate you holding the door for me."
There you go.
That's called commitment.
Yeah, I know, right?
Trevin, party shots and plugs.
Yes, behold the green and gold. I have to say this, and I'm loving the way our sisters are representing and doing their thing, covering HBCU sports. But Maya Chaka, and I hope I said her name right, first Black woman to officiate an NFL game this past weekend. Norfolk State Spartan, behold the green and gold. We're doing it all over the place. Kudos to you. I'm very impressed, and I wish you tremendous success and keep moving things forward. For me, just hit me on Ice Cold Alpha on Twitter. Urban Media Today Sports, Urban Media Today Talk Sports. Go to urbanmediatoday.com and Urban Media Today Radio. Urban Media Today Talk Sports is a podcast that's on every Saturday morning. Check it all out. Also, we're holding things down with the HBCU Pro Sports Media Association, as evident with AD quarterbacking the HBCU-PSMA Knights of the Round Table.
My parting shot is going to be a little personal, and it goes out to one of my alma maters, Tuskegee University. Yes, Tuskegee made a very unpopular decision as far as the fans were concerned by pulling the plug Wednesday on fans attending the games at Cleve L. Abbott Memorial Stadium on the campus of Tuskegee University. The alumni everybody understood the decision. They were not upset with the decision. A lot of people were upset about the timing because travel arrangements, plans, et cetera, had already been made for the game. You know, this was Wednesday evening when the statement came out. But I want to thank the athletic department at Tuskegee, specifically Nick Brown, Frank Lee, who does play-by-play over there, and Guy, who's the one of the board members of the Alumni Association, for reaching out to the Black College Sports Network and allowing us to come in and bringing us in so that we could get that game out to the fans of Tuskegee and for the fans of West Alabama who was their opponents, because both people were upset because they could not attend the game at the stadium. So thank you, Tuskegee, for trusting Black media to get your product out to our Black constituents. So that is my parting shot. Want to say hello to my wife, Mimi, and my name is AD Drew. You can catch me BCSN Sports Rap, Black College Sports Network. Follow me on Twitter at BCSN Drew, BCSN DREW, and you can catch this podcast along with all the podcasts of the Black College Sports Network on the BCSN Pod Zone. Please, for our podcast, in any podcast that you see that's positive with HBCU sports, like, share, subscribe. I don't care whose it is. I prefer it be mine. If it's not mine, let it be Charles. If it's not Charles, let it be Trevin. But whatever it is, like, share, and subscribe. Fellas, it's time to pick up this show and get out of here. Appreciate y'all joining me. For Charles Bishop, for Trevin A. Jones, my name is AD Drew, and we'll see you next Monday right here, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central on Knights of the Round Table. I holla.